Hey guys, it's me Jack and I'm back with another review. So yeah, I've been gone for quite a while. I have been very busy lately, but I'm back now and ready to finish my Spider-Man reviews, starting with my review of Spider-Man Homecoming. After the Amazing Spider-Man 2 failed to win over audiences, all future sequels to it were cancelled, and the rights to Spider-Man were given back to Marvel. In 2016, Spider-Man made his first appearance in the MCU in Captain America: Civil War, played by actor Tom Holland. It was announced that the following year he would get his first solo movie in the MCU, titled Spider-Man Homecoming. The story follows a teenager named Peter Parker who already is Spider-Man, and is on a mission to stop a supervillain known as the Vulture from selling dangerous weapons to terrorists. I will admit, going into this movie, I was a little skeptical, mainly because I was a fan of Andrew Garfield, and the movie, as well as Tom Holland's portrayal of Spider-Man, needed to be really good in order to make me forgive them for getting rid of Andrew Garfield. But thankfully, both the movie and his performance satisfied me. I really like this movie. Is it one of the greatest superhero movies ever made? I wouldn't say so. But it's a very entertaining and enjoyable ride. Tom Holland is a great Spider-Man. He's the first one who's actually a teenager. That is the thing. As much as I enjoyed Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, they were in their 20s. Spider-Man is supposed to be a teenager. Then again, the name is kind of misleading. I mean, shouldn't it be Spider-Boy? Whatever. The point is, Tom Holland is the right age for the character. Taking that out of the equation, though, he's very likable. He feels like a very good combination of the last two Spider-Mans. He has the awkwardness of Maguire, but he can also be cool like Garfield. His character does constantly make mistakes throughout the movie, particularly when he disobeys Tony Stark by hacking his suit, and doing the opposite of what Stark told him to do. He's a kid who wants to do as much good as he possibly can, unlike the other Avengers who are constantly taking on supervillains all the time. He deals with smaller things like bike thieves and giving people directions. He is truly a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's a kid that sacrifices things in order to do what he feels is right. Word gets out in the school that he apparently knows Spider-Man, and so he gets invited to a party, and it's expected that Spider-Man will show up there as well. He plans on doing this only to be distracted and having to leave the party in order to stop the Shocker, even if it means that everybody will end up making fun of him. Granted, I always wondered why he didn't just go back to the party after it was all over, but whatever. He does this again at the end of the movie, when he's going out to a dance with Liz, the girl he has a crush on. He's wanted this for so long, but once he figures out that her father is actually the Vulture and he's planning a robbery that night, Peter has to leave her in order to stop him, because it's the right thing to do. This version of Spider-Man is very good. I will say that I don't find him to be quite as interesting as the former versions of the character. Those ones I felt had more compelling struggles. Holland's, while still interesting, just isn't quite as compelling, but it's still a very good and different version of the character. We also have Aunt May, who is much younger in this version than in the earlier versions. In the Raimi movies, she might as well have been his grandma, but here she's very much the age where she could be his mom. She is very good, and the chemistry between her and Peter is very believable. There's the character of Ned, Peter's best friend. He's really the comic relief character of this movie, and he's very funny. At times his character can be a bit annoying, but it's kind of intentional. When he finds out that Peter is Spider-Man and is constantly asking him all of these questions. And the gag about him being Peter's guy in the chair is really funny. Tony Stark is also in this movie. He really plays the Uncle Ben role in this story, being the mentor figure to Peter, giving him guidance and advice. Robert Downey Jr., as usual, is excellent, being very wise while also mixing in some humor and cockiness that we associate with the character of Tony Stark. He and Peter have a very father-son-like relationship, which is further explored in the later movies. Even if Tony can be very hard on him, you can tell that he truly cares about him and doesn't want him to die. But they still knew to keep his character in the background, so he doesn't take over the movie. It's still very much a Spider-Man movie. We once again have the character of Flash Thompson, the kid that bullies Peter. And of all the Flashes, this one might just be my favorite. He's just a lot more realistic. where in the previous movies he was this big, strong guy who beat the shit out of Peter. Here he's just some douche, and he's about the same size as Peter. Hell, I think he's smaller. And he just sort of teases him and calls him names. But the truth is, a lot of bullies are like that. However, my favorite character in this movie is without a doubt the Vulture. He is easily one of my favorite villains in the Spider-Man franchise. Once again, he's incredibly sympathetic. He starts off as just a construction worker doing his job. But then, because of Tony Stark, he ends up losing that job. This makes him desperate, and motivates him and the rest of his fellow workers to start selling some of the alien weaponry that they found. His character is just doing what he has to in order to survive. But at the same time, he doesn't want to engage the Avengers. He's not just some crazy evil guy who wants to cause havoc and destruction because, well, he's crazy. At the end of the day, he's just a businessman. And when you find out that he is actually Liz's dad, it's a truly terrifying moment. And as he drives them to the dance and slowly starts to put two and two together, realizing that Peter is in fact Spider-Man. A few scenes later, he and Peter have a chat. He talks to Peter about why he's doing this, and how rich and powerful people like Tony Stark don't care about the little people that do all the work for them. Something that's very refreshing about this version of Spider-Man is that he's already Spider-Man when we meet him. After 2 origin stories, it's nice to have one that just starts with him as Spider-Man. However, while this is technically a superhero movie, it's also very much a high school movie. A lot of the movie is really showing what the Marvel Cinematic Universe looks like through the eyes of a high schooler. There are scenes where characters talk about going on dates with members of the Avengers. There's a Captain America instruction video, and a Captain America detention video. The film is also very much a comedy. There's a lot of good humor in it. Even some involving the villains. There's a scene where the Vulture kills one of his henchmen, only for it to be revealed that he thought that this was the anti-gravity gun. There are a lot of really funny moments in this movie, like Spider-Man stopping a guy from stealing a car only for him to find out that it's his car, or the interrogation mode on Peter's suit, which makes his voice sound all deep and scary, except not really, it's just silly. There's even a scene where he steals Flash's car, and he does like a Batman voice. It's just hysterical. The film once again brings some new things to the table that we've never seen in a Spider-Man film before. We're so used to seeing Spider-Man swinging around in the city, but here we have him in the suburbs, which means there aren't really any buildings for him to swing on, so he has to do a lot of it on foot. He also has gadgets on his suit. Now, this I'm kind of mixed on. While it is kind of cool and neat, it also makes him a little too overpowered, I feel. It also turns him into something that he's not. It almost feels like they're trying to turn him into another Iron Man. And that's not what he should be. He should be Spider-Man. The new Spider-Man suit is also pretty decent. I mean, true, I do prefer the classic design, but this one is still pretty unique. But of course we have to talk about the film's problems, 'cause yeah, there are some. The character of Liz is a very boring and uninteresting love interest. I complained about Mary Jane in the Raimi movies, but honestly, I'm really debating who I like less. Yes, Mary Jane could be annoying and at times unlikable, but she at least did have character and personality. Liz is just very bland and forgettable. She's pretty much just there to be the love interest. Also, I will say that this movie just isn't as emotionally engaging as the previous Spider-Man movies were. All the previous Spider-Man movies, even with their problems, did do a very good job of getting a lot of emotion out of the audience. This is mainly just a fun romp. There are a couple of good emotional moments, particularly a scene where Peter is trapped under some rubble, and just barely manages to muster the strength to get out of there. But aside from that, there isn't really anything that moved me, or that really tore my heart out, like in the earlier movies. But then again, this movie does at least have its own feel, which is a good thing. Overall, I do really enjoy this movie. I just don't have as much to say about it as the other Spider-Man movies. It's a good, fun, entertaining superhero movie, and I'm gonna give it a 7.8 out of 10. So thanks for watching this review, and be sure to let me know what you think of this movie in the comment section down below. And join me next time for my final Spider-Man review of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Till then, I'm Jack, and I will see you next time.